All right, everyone. It is Friday, and you know what time what that means. Excuse me, I'm getting all out of order here today. And you know what that means. It's time for the Manufacturing E-commerce Success Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Damon Pastolka. We got Nicole Donnelly right over there. We got Kurt Anderson down over there. And today we're going to be talking with Ashok from Optessa about adapting quickly to disruptive operations. And he is going to drop some golden nuggets with us today. I will give it to you, Kurt Anderson. Take it away.
Hey, Damon. Hey, dude, I moved. I'm down here. I'm usually up there, but I'm down here today. So I feel it's a little different placement for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Hey, Nicole, how are you up there?
I'm doing good. How are you down there, Kurt?
I'm doing good down there.
Brady Bunch a little bit.
It's kind of Brady Bunch. I didn't know you were old enough to know who Brady Bunch was, but I like it down here. How's Nicole? You're doing okay up there? You're doing all right?
Weather's okay up here. Yeah,
doing okay.
Great.
All right. Yep. Man, am I thrilled? Man, am I excited? Damon, I couldn't even sleep a wink. I don't know if you guys noticed. I didn't even do my hair today. I'm like so excited. We have Dr. Ashok on the program, the CEO of Optessa. Hey, how about this handsome devil here? We've got this guy in the crowd. Where is he? Here he is. John Baglino.
Who's that guy?
Thanks for making this. All right, so let's dive in. So Damon, I don't know. We've done this once or twice, right? I don't know if we've ever had a guest where you and I were the smartest guys in the room. Right? So, and today's not one of them.
I know.
I just want to give you a little background on Dr. Ashok. Okay. Are you guys, Nicole, are you sitting down for this? Are you ready?
Okay. I'm bracing myself.
Okay. Yep. Now, Dr. Ashok, please correct me on anything I have. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. 1 bachelor's degree in physics. Dr. Ashok, do I have that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Wait a minute. A second bachelor's degree in electrical communications. All right. So 2 bachelor's degrees.
Correct.
Then that wasn't enough. So then he gets a master's degree at I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this college. It's a really tiny. It's called Yale. So then Damon. Oh, and Dan Bigger's here today. Hey, then he gets a PhD at Yale University. So Damon, remember when I applied for my PhD and I
didn't make it.
You know what, Ashok, I misspelled PhD and they wouldn't let me in. So Dr. Ashok, thank you for joining us today. How are you? Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Kurt. Happy to be here.
Well, we are thrilled. I have a couple of things. All right. So now it gets juicier. I'm going to, and then Nicole, I know you have a ton of questions, but I've got to just lay the groundwork of this, of who's in the room here today. So then he goes off. He's a visiting professor at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. So that was enough. So then he moves next door to the Royal Institute of Technology of Melbourne, Australia, because that was right near Stockholm. And then he becomes the CEO of Optessa. So Damon, once again, we're just not the smartest guys in the room today. Dr. Ashok, my first question for you today is this. What's it feel like to always be the smartest guy in the room? What's it like?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not. My kids will tell me, and my wife will tell me, I'm not even the smartest person in the family.
Well, hey, at least we have that. We have one thing in common. So, all right, let's dive in. Nicole, I know you have a whole list of questions here. Let's kick things off for Dr. Ashok.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Welcome so much. Thanks for coming, Dr. Ashok. So excited to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
So we are talking today about APS, Advanced Planning and Scheduling Software, and APS and its role as an enabler of business strategy for manufacturers. Such a great and important topic right now. So let's talk a little bit about, can you tell us a little bit about what is production scheduling software for our listeners? Can you just give us a high level overview of what it is and how it works?
Sure. So production scheduling software, and I'm now going to use the more general advanced planning and scheduling software, helps manufacturers decide what to make, where to make, and when to make. So you can think from the viewpoint of a large manufacturer. Hopefully, they have a huge backlog of orders, and they have all these shiny, gleaming factories and facilities globally, and they need to figure out, how am I going to execute? How am I going to deliver on these orders? And it is not an easy question by any means, because manufacturing, they have to deal with lots of questions. For example, a lot of challenges like supply chains, right? I mean, we all heard about supply chain pain, as it's called. So supply chains are long, convoluted, and increasingly kind of volatile. Demands are always volatile, right? I mean, who knows? Who can look into the future? And then on top of that, you have to deal with their own what I call plant and labor capacities and issues. So all of this points to the fact that making stuff is a highly constrained
Yes.
business, right? So they have to deal with these constraints. And if you think about the math and science of constraints is optimization. And so what we do, or what is that when we put in a lot of these, the latest and greatest optimization methods to optimally deal with these constraints. Now, another aspect of scheduling is that it is what's called computationally intractable. I mean, that's what they say. These are NP hard problems. So as the size of the problem increases, it becomes increasingly impossible to calculate plans and schedules. So increasingly, there are a lot of AI and machine learning and these kind of techniques also brought into the mix. So APS uses the latest and greatest in optimization, AI, and machine learning to solve these very complex problems for manufacturers.
Oh, I love it. I love what you said there about APS helps manufacturers know what to make, where to make it, and when to make it. Right? Correct? That was such a great, simple way of explaining just APS software. And you're absolutely right about there's just so many constraints, and it's such a dynamic situation, right? Supply chain shifting all the time. And so to be able to have a software that can really help you manage and handle the dynamic, nature and environment of making something, as simple as my cup. It's amazing all of the things that go into that.
And the complexity goes up. The complexity goes up so much because if you're making the same end product on 5 different factories around the world and your supply chain is global and, one critical thing and it hoses you. I mean, it just makes it's just like, okay, you have these 3, this supplier is got something, had a fire or whatever. Now, how does that ripple effect through all the different factories and where do they have inventory and moving that all around like you guys are trying to calculate is incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Well, and you think about manufacturing, right? I mean, it is a very underappreciated miracle that something as complex as a car or an iPhone can be made for the price it is. Right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I had a tour. I have to chime in, Nicole. I had a tour yesterday of the kazoo factory, the original kazoo factory. And Dr. Ashok, this is a very complicated process. I was actually helping to manufacture these. And so we might dig into that later, Nicole. But anyway, Nicole, keep going on the questions. I know we're going to do a hard stop at the top of the hour. I'm going to pull up. We've got a bunch of hellos coming at you, Ashok. A lot of friends from around the world are saying hi.
Yes.
So I'm going to pull up some friends, but go ahead. Let's dig into our next question here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on just the complexity, and I think another a really important point is just how customizable this software can be and should be. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that, Ashok, because obviously every environment is going to have its own unique constraints, very specific to the operation, to the product, etc. So how customizable is this advanced planning and scheduling software? Let's talk there, and then a little bit about how you tailor it specifically to the unique needs of each industry and types of manufacturing ops.
Actually, I'm going to turn the question a bit on its head, but one of the challenges of production scheduling software is the devil is in the detail. Unless you get all the details right, you come up with a worthless schedule that really they cannot build. And when you get into details, then you get into the details of the vertical or the manufacturing technology, and you can really get lost in all the differences in things going on. And so I've been to factories where you have 2 parallel assembly lines making the same exact product, but the business rules that govern them were completely different. And that is the nature of the beast. So historically, what's happened is a tendency to customize and over customize. So the idea is that every plant then felt they had to have their own solution, or every technology, every assembly line, and it kept coming up with these very custom solutions which worked in their environment, but which couldn't really be taken to a different environment. So the challenge really is to come up with a general purpose system that can handle all the differences out of the box. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a business, right? If we had to go around customizing everything everywhere, we'd be very limited. So that is the great challenge in designing great APS software, is that out of the box, you should be able to support the extreme range of functionality that you might see, like what an automaker cares about, maybe nothing like what a semiconductor manufacturer cares about, or what food and beverage, or aerospace. And the idea is actually, so our perspective is there's a core science of planning and scheduling that applies universally. And so we try to solve these problems at that core abstract level. And then we are able to apply to solve the full range of problems, handle any detail that's relevant. So that is the flip side of it, which is that there has been a tendency to over customize. And we want to get to a point where carts off the shelf, we already be able to deliver solutions without too much customizing. Now, there's always some customization involved, like integrating with the other factory systems. So that is inevitable because every factory may have a different set of IT infrastructure. And the other point also is that you may have, of course, some business processes are different. So you need to be able to configure the workflows and so on around those. But that's the real challenge. The idea is to do whatever customizing is necessary, but not having to invent completely new solutions every place you go.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about it being a general purpose system that can handle things out of the box. I think isn't that like the dream for any type of software solution? Like, how can we limit the amount of customization that needs? It's expensive. It's prone to having issues. If it breaks, right? If some part of it breaks, then it's going to create challenges.
And upgrading and maintaining and upgrading, 100 different things is very expensive.
And if your out of the box solution too has the variability that covers 95, 98% of the use cases, it's so much better because, like you said, you go through an upgrade. Hey, the variables are just updating in the new software. That's all you got to do. But when you put those custom pieces on something like this, it really, it just exponentially increases your difficulty in upgrading and your cost to maintain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the cost to maintain, because just think about like the team internally, the IT team that has to maintain it and all of that, and the resources that requires for the manufacturing facility. And, the goal obviously is how can we limit that investment of resources as much as possible. So it's just, simplifies the process. So
absolutely. Cool. Yeah.
Hey, real quick again, Nicole, we've got some great comments coming in here. So, Ashok, you're getting all sorts of hellos and warm greetings, great discussion, good points, good comments. So, guys, keep those comments coming. If you're just joining us, we are here with Dr. Ashok, the CEO of Optessa, and we're having a great conversation. So keep the comments coming. Let us know where you're coming from. Damon, we've got folks all over the world here today. So this is fantastic. Nicole, what's next on our schedule of great questions?
Well, I think it would be really lovely to hear from you, Ashok. Like, what are some of the key benefits of advanced planning and scheduling software that you're seeing? Like, maybe you can share some examples with some clients of how you've seen this software literally transform, their manufacturing business. What are some of those benefits that are allowed there?
So one thing I should say is that this is one area where ROI is very quick. So if you think in terms of planning and scheduling, having to adhere to all these constraints and business rules I talked about, effectively, anytime you have a plan or schedule that breaks one of those rules or constraints, it adds to the cost. And if you can have a system that generates plans and schedules while eliminating or maybe minimizing any broken rules and constraints, you automatically have a very low cost solution. And that will save you huge amounts of money. And the general categories that people point, our customers tell us in terms of where they get benefits, for example, is order fulfillment. So you can increase the percentage of orders that are fulfilled on time. But any delayed orders could be lost business or expedited costs and so on. The other point is lean operations. You want to get the most out of your existing infrastructure, or existing capacity, and by, for instance, being very efficient, both in terms of manpower or inventories, you're going to save a lot of money. These days, a big concern is supply chain instability, right? Decoping with all the volatility in supply chains. And APS software can help you do that. And I can get into a little more detail how it does that. Then we can, of course, I mentioned about optimization will help you maximize the usage of your plant capacity. So if you think of these are billion-dollar plants, right? And if you can improve capacity utilization by 1%, we're talking tens of millions of dollars, right? I mean, so that's another thing. Then I would say you also give manufacturers a lot of flexibility by giving them the ability to react very quickly to changing demands. And what is that worth? And last but not least, historically, this has been a kind of very manual way of generating plans and schedules. People use spreadsheets and so on. It takes forever. Whereas with modern APS systems, you can generate this in minutes. So that would save, again, a huge amount of time and also allow you to react quickly to changing market conditions. So all of these add to literally millions of dollars of savings. And a conservative estimate, what our auto plant customers say is that a mid to large auto plant can save anywhere from $4 to $5 million a year using software like ours. Wow. And that is a conservative estimate, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm Ashok. I'm sorry. What was that number? I didn't hear you.
It was per plant 4 to 5 million, and you can multiply
to $5 million
dollars per year conservatively.
Now, Nicole, if you don't mind, I have to chime in with a quick question, if you don't mind here. So, okay. Ashok, remember, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so this might not be the smartest question. Should I not be using like Excel or a spreadsheet? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm just teasing. I'm just kidding.
Well, if you don't care about $5 million per year, sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
who needs that $5 million? Because Ashok, I want. Excel is on the cheap, right? I can get Excel very cheap. I don't need that
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
The thing is that's $5 million in profit, right? Because your costs are covered. Your costs are covered at that point. This is just running things better. Because as you say, if you have a little tick like in an automotive plant that stops your line for 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And that happens a few times a year, that's a big deal. If goodness forbid that there's something that you don't have motors or something to do that. And when you look at these facilities now, they are literally built so that all the different kinds, because each model is going to have a different motor and some configuration. If it's not there in that line, they have to wait for it. It's not like you just go, oh, well, because that thing's it's moving. And the savings are incredible. Just per second they can save of slowdown.
And the neat thing is that the savings come about not by investing in new plants or new facilities or buying a lot of things. It's just software, organizing your operations better. And it is, so those are the savings. Yeah. Sorry, Nicole, you're saying.
Oh, I was just saying, and we're just talking about Damon's example is just one constraint, right? That's just one constraint. And so the beauty of this is that you can take so many constraints that you have in your facility and be able to optimize. For you to be able to do that manually is incredibly time consuming, and the amount of error that can happen, but that you have a software that can take just a huge number of those constraints, talking about the complexity, of course, the larger your facility, that just multiplies in terms of how much optimization, how much money you're going to save over time, factoring all that in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to say is that, so these are tactical benefits, right? I mean, it makes your paint shop run better, for example. But and I think people generally get it, that's working smarter and being better in your operations is going to save you money. What is perhaps not so appreciated is the fact of the strategic benefits that production planning and scheduling software can bring you. And those benefits, I can get into that. Yeah, but That is also a
Exactly.
very significant benefit.
It's
Yeah.
huge because if you strategically could figure out a way to deliver your product, it's complex as an automotive, in something where, listen, if we have a capacity for X amount of custom cars out of this facility every month, you could fill those up where somebody could literally order 1 week and get delivery in 2 weeks or a week or 10 days, or the faster you can do it, the more you're going to drive brand loyalty and everything else. It's a strategic decision because those tools
Right.
allow you to do those things that no one else can.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
And yeah, increasingly, what I think, hopefully, it's coming clear to me is, great as these systems are in terms of helping with day-to-day operations, they're excellent vehicles for business transformation.
Let's talk more about that. What specifically would you say, Ashok? Damon made a really great point about just from a branding perspective, being able to deliver on time or even early consistently helps from a strategic perspective. What are some other examples that you see APS software supporting when it comes to enabling business strategy in addition to the tactical side of things?
Right. So suppose you have an overall business objective to reduce your time to delivery from the time you get an order to the time you execute on it. And I think you already touched upon it a couple of things. This is that by making the most of the available capacity you have and giving you the flexibility to react to orders as they come along, and by making your operations more efficient, you can significantly reduce the time to delivery. So that's one strategic kind of that we see. Other examples, I think I saw one of the comments talked about supply chain issues and on stabilizing supply chains, right? So the change is inevitable. That's what happens, right? I mean, things happen, stuff happens. And how do you deal with it? So one of the neat things that every time something changes, you have to replan and reschedule. But what you don't want to do is come up with a completely new plan or new schedule. When if you do that, you cause havoc up and down the supply chain. It's called this bullwhip effect. So what we can do is try to handle the whatever event that caused this change, but try to stay as close as possible to the existing plan or schedule. And what we found is that stabilizes the supply chain, makes your life much easier for your suppliers down the line. And then you get into things like leveling or hedging, which is one way of reducing inventories across the entire supply chain. Now, historically, everyone knows the Toyota production system that if you try to make every day look like every other day, every hour in your manufacturing look like every other hour, every week look like every other week, then you have a very smooth and stable supply chain, very even flow of parts through the entire supply chain. Now, it's easy to do if you have a small number of parts, but if you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of parts, then you need a very sophisticated APS system that can do this leveling or hedging across all these features. And the benefits of that are immense. And you will see reduced inventories, very smooth operation of the supply chain. So that's under strategic benefit you can provide, just supporting the supply chain. Then the third is increasingly we're getting into digital transformation. I think if folks have heard of Industry 4.0, there's going to be IoT, there's AI, ML, there's blockchain, there's hyperconnectivity on the factory floor. All these things are enabling the next industrial revolution. And so you're getting all this data from the plant, right? What do you do with it? And an APS system is ideally positioned to deliver value on that. So just think about it. You have a plan or schedule that you've done a day in advance of production. Then you go to your factory, and the factory is trying to build according to that. They get some bad news. The parts haven't come in, some machine has broken down, or someone has changed their order, God forbid. So there could many things go wrong between the time you make the plan and the time you execute. What do you do at that point? Right now, execution is left to the factory floor. They have to cope with these disruptions the best they can. But going forward with digital transformation, you can actually close the loop. You can connect a planning system to an execution system. And a system like ours can actually track what's going on the factory floor. and say, this is what I planned, but this is what I'm seeing. And there's a difference between what I planned and what I'm seeing. Maybe I should replan or reschedule. And I can do it in real time these days. And that's the goal, right? You can close the loop. You can, and so on the factory floor, you always have an optimal plan or schedule to execute. You're not having to deal with something and trying to in a very suboptimal way deal with these disruptions. So I think that's another example of enabling business transformation, enabling Industry 4.0 objectives. So
that's great. We got a nice comment here from Lewis. Good point. Time to deliver reduction is key to staying competitive. So I know we're coming into time.
Yeah, we're getting close.
We're getting close to the time here,
Okay.
guys. So again, we're here with Dr. Ashok. You want to please follow him on LinkedIn. Go to Optessa. They have an amazing amount of information on their website. John Baglino's in the crowd here. Connect with our dear friend John Baglino. Nicole, do you have any other questions, or do I have a good question left for Ashok?
I think I have lots of questions for Ashok, but I think we're going to have to save it for another day.
Ashok, I think Ashok, we're going to have you come back. I have one question. We're going to close it out. I have one question for you. I love asking in the beginning, but I wanted to save it for the end today. You're a special guest. We appreciate you more than you can imagine. Before we let you go today, if anybody just came in, 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, PhD from Yale, Mr. Smarty Pants. I'm just teasing, Dr. Ashok. I'm just teasing. When you were a little guy growing up, okay, you've become just in all seriousness, you're changing the world, right? You're making a major difference. You're doing some great work. We're familiar with your team. You're doing you've built an amazing team with John and all sorts of other folks that we've met. When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little guy growing up that just inspired you to do such great work in your life?
Well, actually, my plans when I was a kid were very different. I grew up in India, and I grew up idolizing a lot of cricketers, and actually wanted to be a cricketer, but very quickly became apparent that I had no talent whatsoever to be a cricketer. So then I decided my second option was to get into these kind of things. But that's how I ended up.
But I was going to be shortstop for the Yankees. Damon, I don't know what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Right. We all had something, but
talent limit should be.
So who was looking back on your life, who was a big inspiration to you as a young man, little boy, teenager, school age? What kind of led you to pursue this life of academia into entrepreneurship? Who was your hero?
Well, I would have to talk about my dad, who was a PhD in physics.
Nice.
And he worked with at that point, the only Nobel laureate in physics India had. Wow. So he was a very smart man. He published a great many papers, and he was an inspiration to me, but all my brothers as well.
Wow. Cool. I bet he's just so proud of where you are and what you've been able to, how you've been able to have such a wonderful impact. That's wonderful. What a way to carry on his legacy.
Thank you.
Yep. That apple didn't fall. Hey, and Damon, I didn't think, Ashok, these guys tease me because I like to talk a lot. So somehow we pulled it off. We are at the top of the hour. So guys, how about if you've been hanging out with us for the past 30 minutes, how about a huge round of applause for Dr. Ashok for just doing such great things. Again, please connect with him on LinkedIn. Check out Optessa. They are doing just wonderful work in the auto industry, all sorts of different industries, improving efficiency. And so no disrespect for those folks using Excel. Hey, God bless you. But you know what? Get out of the dark side, get out of the dark ages, and come on to the good side of things. So
yeah, it's like being in a dark room and having the windows open and all the light come in. Like,
that's right. God. That's right. Just all the light. It's like angels are singing, trumpets are playing. So hey guys, we'll let you run. Happy Friday. Go out and just be someone's inspiration, just like Ashok is here today. Nicole, thank you for leading the charge.
Thank
Damon,
you.
parting words. Do you want to close us out for the weekend?
I'll close this out today, Kurt. Thanks so much, Dr. Ashok, for being here today and explaining a lot about APS systems and just how the impact they really have on manufacturers. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone that was commenting today. Woo,
Yeah.
the comments are rolling. Thank
Yep.
you for continuing to come back, dropping your comments and listening to us every week. We will be back again another week. And next week, excuse me, in another week. Yes, that is next week. But thanks so much for being here, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Thank you.